Hey everybody, welcome back to the 67th episode of Taps and Patience. I did not go find new music for this episode, and that makes me sad. We don't have the rights to our old music anymore. Anyway, I am AJ with Audacity Micro here with Harrison of Precision Ingenuity. Hi, Harrison.
How we doing?
I'm doing good. Can I start with our administrative announcements here?
Yeah, go for it.
So we don't have to do them later. Okay, so first of all, if you are listening to this on a podcast player, we are also on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, you can also listen to this in a podcast player. Spotify is the only place that has both audio and, well, I guess YouTube has the audio too. You can listen to them in both forms on Spotify, or you can watch the video on YouTube, or you can just get the audio in other places. We have a Patreon. Patreon.com/tapsandpatience, and you will find us. The money for that is going to go to getting us to IMTS and doing a meetup in the Pocket NC booth, if they have a booth and if they give us permission. We're so organized.
Yeah. I still vote we crash the within tolerance one and just claim that we planned
claim
them.
It's ours.
Yeah.
I think it's better to do them on separate days so that if someone can't make it to the within tolerance ones, they can get to ours.
I'm totally joking.
Yeah, I'll coordinate with Dylan to get them as like far away in the week as we can.
That's a good idea.
I'm going to aim for, if I can, I think early in the week, like as early as possible, depending on your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
When I got to IMTS last time, I was like rushing to get to the Insta Machinist meetup, and I didn't have any time before then. Mm-hmm. And when I first got there, like it was like the first time I had left the house in like 9 months. And like I had been working by myself for like 9 months, and I got there and there were machines everywhere and there were people everywhere. And it was like just walking into IMTS was overwhelming for a bit. And then, you know, we went to the meetup and there's a bunch of people there and there's people recognizing. It's like, okay, I started to relax a little bit. And then after that, I hung out with Fidget Things and Norman, both guests on our Christmas episode. And like then being able to walk around the show with them was way better because they were, you know, they know this stuff way better than I do. And it's just like good having a guide basically and someone to hang out with.
Yeah.
And so what I would like to do is basically do the meetup towards the beginning of the show so that for people like me that were just overwhelmed with the crowds can find a buddy.
Yeah.
Cue the clip from Finding Nemo. Anyway. So that's my theory.
Yep. I like it. Sounds like a good plan.
I don't know if Pocket NC has a booth yet, but I think we do it at Pocket NC booth if they have booth.
I like it.
With or without
their
permission. Plan. Anyway, what's up with you? I've heard you've had some events this week.
Yes. I am very frustrated. So our machine was supposed to be delivered on Tuesday, and we scheduled it like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and the company called and said that they don't have any drivers. And so the next available date that lined up with both the delivery company and our riggers is February 2nd. So a little over 2 weeks of a pushback. So we went from next Tuesday to like 2 weeks ago, or 2 weeks in the future on a Friday.
And your machine payments have started, haven't they?
They have started. We've already made our first payment. So
that's a bummer.
Yeah. So really jonesing to get that machine. So I am ready to move and ready to continue. But I guess the upside to that is that we were rushing to get the building ready, and we were getting the bare minimum of stuff ready to be able to move in and start working. So it does give us a little bit more time to focus on the building and get some things in place. So we got a new air compressor. We got a new sandblasting cabinet. We don't have any of the offices built. We don't have any airlines run. The electricians are in there getting all the wiring done. We just got the flooring put down today, or painted on, or whatever, stained. It's a stain, a concrete stain. So we did that today. And so, like, the way it was set up, we were going to have the air compressor put in on Monday, the machine dropped off on Tuesday, and then the Haas techs were supposed to be there Wednesday or Thursday, and we were going to run temporary airlines between them
Mm-hmm.
to get everything functioning. So now this gives us a little bit more time to get our ducks in a row and get everything ready. This has just been a long, drawn out process.
Yep.
And the main reason for that is just because we didn't hire anyone to do all the work. We're doing it all ourselves. So even though we've had the building since October, it's just been, we've been doing all the demo work, all the construction work. Really, the electricians are the first ones that we've had that we've actually hired to come in and help.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been done as cheaply and as efficiently as possible, which just means that it just takes more time than normal. So, but
Honestly, this
anyways,
extra time may turn into be like a little bit of a blessing because you have that extra time to cross your T's and dot your I's. Like I know you need the
yeah.
machine now, but like these little odds and ends, there will always be odds and ends that you will have not gotten done. And then
Mm-hmm.
because the machine's there and you'll get busy and like have to be doing a bunch of work, like
Yeah.
then those would have never gotten done or been pushed back a year.
Or not
So
gotten done as well as they should have.
yeah.
So I mean, yeah, there's definitely something to be said for all that. And so like I'm frustrated, but it could end up being a blessing in disguise. We'll wait and see how it all shakes out. But got that. Just been running around with a like a chicken with its head cut off. I'm basically out of work for the most part now. I still got some design work jobs I can do, but I think from the machining actual jobs to machine, I think I'm completely caught up, except for one
Okay.
job. I got one job that I have material coming in that I was planning on being the first job in the new shop, but I think we're going to try to fit it in now in the 2 weeks in between. Um, but anyways, let's see what else. Yeah, it feels like there's just been a lot more going on that but at the same time, it doesn't feel like I have a lot by the end of the week. I've just been running around like a
Yeah.
madman, just dealing with small issues. Yeah. What about you? It sounded like at the beginning of the week you had it pretty stress free, but towards the end, maybe not so much.
Well, so what happened? I ordered tooling for this big job that I'm working on. It's a job of 100 brass pieces, some relatively intricate machining on them, but nothing too crazy. They're not particularly tight tolerance. But anyway, I ordered the tooling on like Saturday or something or Monday, and they were supposed to come in on like Tuesday, and they came in yesterday. And like I just and I had, because I was waiting on those tooling, I did some other jobs, and so like I couldn't get started on the parts earlier because I had the machine set up for other thing. Anyway, so about 2 or 3 or something today, I finished getting set up for running that job, and I've just been running. I've been trying to get my first good part, which I think is on the machine right now.
Gotcha.
This job is, of course, due on Monday. So I've got 100 pieces to machine on Monday. For context, today is the 19th, Friday the 19th of January, and the parts are due on the 22nd of January. So
Yeah.
I'll be I'll be in the shop a little bit over the next couple days.
Yeah. Hmm.
So
How's your OM been holding up?
it's been doing really well. I'm slowly learning to get better finishes off of it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the strategies I was using before they worked fine on the Tormach, just didn't work on the OM.
Mm-hmm.
I'm finding that, well, one, I'm finding that I can't actually push the OM a lot harder than I thought I could in the past. But I'm
Okay.
also finding that I need to be more careful to get better finishes on it. And I
Gotcha.
think it's just the nature of a more picky spindle. I think it's just, not quite as forgiving as like the Tormach is.
Yeah. That makes sense because like moving from the Tormach up to the mini mill, like I've run 3/8 tools in stainless on the Tormach, and then I run the exact same tool paths on the Haas, and there's obviously some rigidity differences between those two machines. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not purely the taper, but there is a huge difference in how those two run, just because, well, not just because, but partly because of the tapers that you're dealing with. And so, like running a 3/8 tool in a Cat 40 is way easier than running it in the BT 30. So,
So I think except for the finishing toolpaths, I had like I kind of started off trying to run it like I would run the Tormach, and then I overcompensated by going to like a very high feed, very low depth of cut strategy, and now I'm
mhm,
kind of walking it back halfway, and I'm getting much better material removal rates, which is good.
yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. It's doing well. I still have not taken apart the drawbar to lubricate that and see if it has any broken washers.
Hmm.
It particularly when it's cold, the drawbar will still occasionally kind of get stuck. And
Mm,
it'll alarm out on me. So it desperately needs it. It's also been very cold the last week or so, and my shop heat does not keep up when it's like in the negatives.
yeah.
So negatives Fahrenheit, that's like negative 15 or something Celsius. I don't
Yeah.
know. So the the shop stays at about 50 with just the mini split running when it's negative 20 Fahrenheit outside.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, it does well. I insulated the ceiling last or this summer, and that I think has made the shop livable.
Hmm.
And if I turn on a space heater or two, I can get it up to like 60. So
Yeah.
I think the hostage doesn't quite like being that cold.
Yeah. Well, I was working this week. We got down to, I think, -2, which is not as cold as you, but I had a heat pump, and I don't think it's as good a heat pump as what you got from what it sounds like. And it could only get the shop up to about 40 degrees. And I
Mm-hmm.
had two propane heaters running in the shop trying to get the shop temp up, and I got it up to low 50s, 51, 52. And I share a garage with my grandparents, and they opened the garage door a couple of times, and it instantly dropped down to like the mid 40s anytime they opened the door to get their car in and out. And I was just like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
all my heat is gone. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it was really hard. I didn't have to run too many parts, thankfully, in that cold because I was kind of jumping back and forth between the old
Mm-hmm.
shop, and the new shop. But and I ran mostly the Tormach in that cold. I didn't really run any of the lathe. Although the Tormach has no qualms about temperature, at least in terms of what the control says. But the Haas, when you turn it on, it'll give you warnings like it's too cold. Don't run anything yet. Warm up your
Yeah.
machine. So, but I'll do different things. Like whenever it gets that cold, I don't know if you do this, but this is a kind of a cool hack that I like to do. Is I get small space heaters and I'll stick it inside the machine underneath the spindle on the
Mm.
table, like just small ones, like the little desktop ones,
Yeah.
and then I'll just let it run overnight, and I'll close the doors, and it kind of creates like a heat box in the whole machine. That way, when you come in the morning, it's already kind of preheated, and you can go from there.
So earlier today, this part that I'm doing, it has some laser marking on it. It's a brass part. I only have a CO2 laser. I don't have a fiber laser. CO2 lasers can't mark brass by themselves, but they have like a spray that you spray on it and then you laser, and it leaves actually a shockingly nice black mark on it. I'm very happy with the results.
Hmm.
But to apply that, it needs to be fairly warm. So inside my powder coat booth today, which is a very small room, I opened the door of my powder coat oven and I set my temperature controller to 70 degrees and just used my powder coat oven as a little teeny tiny furnace in that room.
That's
And it worked
awesome.
really well.
I guess I could do that with the hot shot oven. Didn't think of that.
Will it go down to 70 degrees or?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I need a fan in it though. No,
I
we
have a fan in my little powder coat oven.
Yeah, I don't have one in the hot shot. It would melt anything in there. I
Oh
think
yeah,
it's
that's
like
fair.
lowest. I think its lowest temperature is like 300 degrees or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but it's a hot thing. That's funny. Yeah.
So it at this point for me and my schedule, I have two two jobs due on Monday. One of them I was the one that I was finishing up right before getting started on this big job, and then I have the big job. And then I have a pretty small simple job due on Tuesday, which is, an easy Tormach job. I think that's, under 4 hours kind of job.
Yeah.
Famous last words. But the cycle time as I have it now, which is semi optimized on this big job, is about 15 minutes
Mm-hmm.
per finished piece. So it's a 2-op part. I'm doing both ops in my flux vise. You put in a piece of material, hit go, and then move the okay. It does. I've explained this badly. Every time you hit go, you get a finished part. You get an op 1
Yeah.
and an op 2. So
Yeah.
after the op 1 is done, you flip it into the op 2 position and then load more stock.
Yeah. Which, fun fact, I try to do that on my Tormach a lot, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I haven't messed with the Haas because I haven't run any Haas mills, other than the one that's at the university, and it's only got one vice. But on the Tormach Path Pilot, it goes up whenever you do a coordinate
Yes.
change, and that ends up adding a whole lot of time because it also stops the spindle on the Tormach. And so there's a setting in the post processor you can turn off, which basically says it goes from one to the other.
Mm-hmm.
The thing you got to watch about it is that your Z heights are high enough because
Yes.
my vices are at two different heights. And so I usually will, if I'm doing that, I'll have to make sure whatever tools are common, if it's going between the lower vice to the higher vice, make sure whatever op it's leaving off on, the Z height is way high to where it'll move over, and it's still way faster whenever doing that. And the other nice place it's at is on the fourth axis. Anytime the fourth
Yes.
axis rotates, it keeps it from going way up and wasting a whole bunch of time.
Yeah, I
So,
was doing a part the other day that had like some faux knurling where I was
mm-hmm.
cutting in with a ball mill, and it had like 100 different, or it was probably 90 different slots, and it would go down, cut across, go all the way up, move the part 4 degrees, go down, cut across, and on the first part I didn't have that setting fixed. On the second part I did, and it was literally like a 45-minute difference in cycle time.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fortunately, on the way I have my work coordinate system set up, both sides of the Flux Vice use the same work coordinate system. I just have one system for the whole Vice. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not changing work coordinate systems. And both parts are there modeled in CAM in place on the fixture.
How do you do rest machining like that then?
They're both still their own setup,
Okay.
but you can mark one part as the fixture when you're doing the other part.
Okay.
So when I'm doing op 1, op 2 is marked as a fixture. When I'm doing op 2, op 1 is marked as a fixture.
Yeah, but do you have the rest stock transfer between the two or no?
Oh, no, I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay. Because that's always been my biggest problem with Fusion is like if I want to use the same multiple and multiple or the same model in multiple positions, I haven't figured out a way to move. I know you can do it, but there usually workarounds. I don't know of a good way to link and being like this is op one, this is op two. Just rotate it and transfer it.
Yeah,
Or
if you're doing it in place, then it works because Fusion
yes.
knows. But when you're moving it like I do in my templates, it just doesn't. The workaround I have done in the past is I have modeled my op 1 as machined
Mm-hmm.
and used that as the stock for op 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never mind. We're not getting that. I've done
I,
dumber things too, but
one cool trick that I've done for those that are curious if there is a workaround, there is. It's a lot more work. If you have a model and you're doing op one, you can copy that along with all of your toolpaths, and you can apply it to a second model, run all the ops in the same orient. Like So you have your op1, you have a copy of your model, run all op1 again. That'll give you your rest model, and then you can do op2 on it. So you just
Yeah,
have
okay, this
two
is so when
two
I
op.
was like, no, I'm not going to say that because it's dumb. This is what I was talking about.
Yep. Oh, I've
No
done it.
offense.
I
The what
I have done it.
the thing I did though, which I think you probably did this in a more intelligent way, I put those tool paths at the beginning of my operation and calculated all of my tool paths. Then I locked all the ones after those. Like I locked the real ones and I
Mm-hmm.
suppressed the fake ones.
Oh, okay.
And so that way, yeah, it gives you accurate rest machining material and
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's probably kind of a dangerous thing to do.
Yeah. It's probably not the smartest thing to do, but gosh dang it, I hate adaptives that take way more time because it doesn't know what rest material is
Yeah.
on the op2 sides. Because I have some parts where like you'll be machining around it and then well you know what it is with rest machining. If you're trying to machine down and it's got material that's not there and it's just sitting there wasting a whole bunch of time. Oh,
Yep.
that annoys me. That's the biggest thing with the Tormach that will probably go away as I get bigger and faster machines, but wasted motion on a Tormach is probably one of my biggest pet peeves just because it's so slow at everything it does
Yeah.
that it just drives me up a wall. I was running a toolpath the other day and it was a contour and it had like an inch tall ramp down or plunge
Mm-hmm.
down and my plunge speed was set to like 1 inch per minute.
I
And like it came up and started running and
I've
I
done
was
that.
just I was just like, oh my goodness. And I had done it in multiple spots and I immediately was just like, okay, we are stopping, we got to go fix all this because this is way too long.
I have done that a couple times when I copy tools from the Harvey tool library because their
Mm-hmm.
default speeds and feeds is 1 on everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to change like the like you'll change the feed per tooth and the surface speed and it'll
Mm-hmm.
like calculate everything else out, but it doesn't change the plunge speed.
Yeah.
So I've done that multiple times recently.
But you have to be careful with that. And I have my default set to what is recommended for those,
Mm-hmm.
but and that's just because if I do make a mistake and it plunges into material that's, you know, I wasn't expecting it to, I don't want it to blow things up.
Yeah.
But I always make sure that's one of my manual checks whenever I'm finalizing a program is to try to go through when I'm trying to optimize is to go through and look at all the plunge speeds because I leave them by default
Mm.
in the beginning because I want it to error to the slow side,
Yeah.
but gosh darn it, if it's actually going to be plunging down that fast, and it doesn't need to be, that is one of the first things to go on my chopping block. So,
I had an interesting part. Well, I had an interesting error, I guess, earlier today. So I was making this part, and the backside of it has like a cylinder. It's sticking up
mm-hmm,
with a couple different steps in it. And I kept coming up with the bottom step being like undersized.
mm-hmm,
Well, I say kept. I was looking at the first one. The first one, it was coming out undersized, and I was looking at my cam, and it was like, there's nothing weird going on in cam. I was looking at, I was measuring other parts or other features on the same part that use the same tool, and they were all like dead nuts. But
mm-hmm,
this one feature was undersized by like 10 thou, which is more than just like, weird tool deflection or something. Like that's something wrong with a tool path or like something's not acting as expected.
mm-hmm.
Well, I had made a. Are you still there? Did I
Yeah,
lose
I'm
you?
here.
Oh, I lost
No.
you. Sorry, technical difficulties there. I'm back. Anyway, so this cylinder was coming out undersized, and a different mistake I had made was I had left my finishing feed rate on the floor of the part as my roughing feed rate. So it was flying. It was like 180 inches a minute or something like that, and it had stock to leave between where the side of that end mill should have been and the side of the cylinder. And so I was looking at cam, couldn't figure anything out. Turns out it was this, well, one, because I had that running so fast in the smoothing setting in the control. And because it was going so fast, it was like rounding that corner,
Mm-hmm.
and it was using its like 3 thou of stock plus, 15 thou extra to well, I guess it would have been like 5 thou on each side, and was leaving that center cylinder undersized. And by changing the feed of the floor finishing to what it should have been, which is like a half thou feed per tooth, and changing the smoothing setting, it fixed that weird tolerance thing.
Have you or have we talked about the I don't know what it's called on the Haas. I think it's like a G188, 188 or 187.
Or G153, I think.
The P0, P1 and
Yeah,
P2. Okay.
I'll Google it here.
Have you been your machine has that, right?
Yes, and I use it G187.
G187.
I use it on all of my programs because I like there's such a big difference between some of the tools I run. Like I have to
Mm.
manually tweak it.
Okay. Does the post processor automatically control it for you, or are you actually changing which mode it's in?
It does, but it doesn't always do it right. And so because of that, I just don't trust it and I do it myself. There were times like when I was using that little 10 thou tool, it would
Mm.
allow like 5 thou corner rounding, which would
Ah,
instantly break that tool.
gotcha.
So in my post, I have, or excuse me, in my templates, my cam templates, I have like 3 different sections, and it's like roughing, normal stuff, finishing, and at the head of each of those sections, I have a different smoothing setting.
Oh, okay, cool. So you're going from like 210 basically. Gotcha. Nice. That's cool. That's going to be a whole different thing I'm going to have to incorporate into my future programming. I'm sure as I go
Yeah,
to a
something
Haas.
you just don't deal with on the Tormach, but really does make a big difference on the Haas.
Yeah. Well, and it's those dedicated features and levers that you have that are just really cool if you know they exist, and it's kind of incorporating a little bit of hand cam into the programming side, and I,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of I like that because there's cool little tricks. Like, have you watched a lot of the Haas tips of the day?
I've watched some of them, yeah.
There's some really cool ones out there. Um, Two that come to mind is one. Did you know whenever you're doing a drilling cycle, you can add something to the line where it'll reverse the spindle after it drills a hole
No.
to knock the chips off. So
Interesting.
if you have a problem with chips wrapping around your drill and you're trying to run it for unattended and you're
Mm-hmm.
worried about chips, you can have it to every time it drills a hole, it'll run basically I don't know what speed it runs, but it's pretty high speed in reverse for just a second to push all the chips off before it goes to the next hole.
That is part of the canned cycle.
Yes, it's like an extra
Okay.
term or something that you add to it,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. And then the other one that was pretty cool was, and this is on the lathe side, but if you're running a production job, you have to be careful. If you're running a production job, you can have it to where when your tool's going to a home position, it starts indexing the turret in the middle of that transition back.
Okay. Just to
And
save a
so
little bit of time.
just to save a little bit of time. So it'll do is in the retraction home, it'll decouple the spindle head and it'll get it ready to where as soon as it's home, it can rotate. And then it'll start going to position while it's seating,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And it can save, I forget what they said, like 3 seconds on a tool change, averaged out or something. I don't remember what it is. But there's cool little tricks like that I love watching the Haas tips of the day for.
Yeah. I should probably watch more of those now that I have a Haas. I think I've only watched them before I had one.
Yeah.
I was poking around on my machine the other day. I knew since I got this machine there was a couple solenoids in the back of the machine.
Mm-hmm.
And it never really bothered to figure out what they were, and I want to add air blast to it. But I figured out there is one solenoid that is just a normal on-off solenoid, and then I have another one that is set up as a a double act set up for a double acting pneumatic cylinder, and it's
That's
like, ooh, I
cool.
wonder what I can do with that.
Oh my goodness. I just get Pearson vibes with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
because he does a lot of like internal automation that would be so cool to
I
do.
I would love to do something like that. The number one thing I want, and this is probably what it'll get used for if it gets used for anything, is I want to add an air knife for cleaning off the table when it's done, just to save me that 20 seconds of blowing off the part every single time, or five
Yep.
seconds of blowing off the part.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing Pearson does, I think, on his. He got rid of all of his chip fans and put that in instead. Yeah.
So I could put it on the pneumatic cylinder to go down to get closer to the part and then blow off and then retract back.
Yeah. That would
Or I
be
could do
cool.
some sort of parts picker. It'd be really handy if I could go to bed and these parts would still run themselves tonight.
Yeah. 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 I'm gonna Yeah. Automation is, oh man, that's a whole different rabbit hole that I do not want to go down right now. Needless to say, there's some big things I'm thinking about in that realm, but I have no idea when I'm gonna actually be able to implement anything. We'll see.
You can
Big
buy
plan.
a cobot on Haas Amazon Prime for 30K.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that to a UR rep, and he's like, "Well, you can buy the same thing from China for 17, and you probably can, but
Yeah, it's probably true. Yeah.
but it's just his feathers got a little ruffled with that comment." So,
One last thing here. I started building my tooling database finally,
ooh,
and I reorganized all my toolboxes in my drawers. So I went from having 2 drawers of tools to having 5 drawers, but with plenty of extra room in them.
nice.
And then I promptly, immediately after getting the set up, I ordered a thread gauge that I already had. And it's like, oh, maybe I need to put thread gauges in my database too.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, AJ, I'm sorry I'm gonna have to run, but I got we're for those of you who didn't realize this, I don't think it was said. We're kind of doing it late in the week because I had some stuff come up and we missed our normal time. So we're just trying to fit this in here at the end of the week, and I got some other obligations I'm gonna need to run to. So,
I'm glad we got one in though.
oh yeah, no, I wanted to at least get something and hear what's going on in your world and vent a little bit about mine. So I think that's about all we got. It's a little weird not having you start the outro music in the middle of a thought, but
I have this. This could be our outro music for the day.
there you go. It's my outro music. We'll say that. So so for all of you that have been listening, we actually have a short one for once. It's under an hour. So what do you know? Thanks for listening. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us. And this is Harrison with Precision Ingenuity signing out with AJ from, I was about to say Design the Everything, Audacity Micro. So,
Oh, it's too slow. Okay.
all
Bye.
right.